The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
That's like 1098, 1099, 1100. Hey, Mom. It's Micah. So, the other day when the 1100 shekels of silver were taken from you, you kind of cursed the person who did it. It was me. I took it.
The Lord bless you, my son. The Lord bless you.
Yeah. So, you not mad?
Oh, Father, I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord for my son to make an image overlaid with silver. I will give it back to you.
Well, here you go, Mom. I'm just glad you're not mad. Now you can do what you want with the offering, right? Like, what did you have in mind?
I will take 200 shekels of silver and give them to a silversmith who will use them to make an idol unto God.
So far, we've been focusing on each individual judge's victory and downfall. Now we are zooming out a bit, and we're going to start examining the state of Israel as a whole. We are going to see exactly how far from God the nation of Israel is now compared to when the generation of Joshua conquered the land of Canaan. This week we are discussing Judges chapters 17 and 18. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. We are here again. We ended the story of Samson last week. The 4-part series. Is it 4 parts? 1, 2. Yeah, it's like 4-part series on Samson. Yeah, Samson on his own little. It's so, and see again, you would think Samson's like a book. Like we had more episodes on Samson than we did Leviticus and Deuteronomy.
That's crazy. But I feel like Samson was more narrative based than those. So we have a little bit of an excuse.
Hands down. Hands down. Oh my. I thought this week, honestly, keep up the good fight. That's what I thought. I mean, it's like just ending the year out strong, man. Like, and then I have a thought, bro. So my bad. I'm in a cut you off, bro. So go for it.
Yeah. So today I was 2 years old when I understood what it means when they say the fruits of the spirit, bro. You know, like how you reap the fruits of your labor or whatever, right? That's how we should look at the fruits of the Spirit. You understand what I'm saying? And what Spirit is that? The Holy Spirit. You understand what I'm saying? So the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So if you are exhibiting these things, you know that you are reflecting the Holy Spirit.
By their fruits, you will know them.
By their fruits, you will know them. So if you want to know if you're feeling inspired by the Holy Spirit, or if you have the Holy Spirit in you, and you detect fruits of the flesh, which I think this is in Galatians 5.
Yeah, Galatians 5 is where the fruits of the Spirit is.
Right. So they have fruits of the spirits, but then they also talk about, I want to say, like fruits of the flesh. You understand what I'm saying? I'm pulling it up right now really quick.
Galatians 5 verse, should be like in verse 19.
22. Yeah, all right, 19. So the acts of flesh are obvious. I'm reading for the NIV. Sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I think you and I, we read this when we was reading
when we studied
Leviticus, right? Leviticus, Galatians, kind of cross-examination or whatever. But what I'm saying is this, right? If we wanna invite the Holy Spirit in us, if we want to invite the Holy Spirit in us, we have to kind of omit the fruits of the flesh. And they say it's obvious. It's obvious to know if you're operating in the flesh or in the spirit. If whatever decision you make it, if it's leading you to any of these things that we just mentioned in Galatians 5:19 through 21, you operating in the flesh. One of the things that really hit me was anger and fits of rage, was jealousy and fits of rage. Selfish ambition, that's one of them ones what is catch a lot of people off guard. But it's the anger and fits of rage it's jealousy and fits of rage because to me, stuff can make you angry. Stuff makes you angry. Like I don't sit and cultivate anger in me. Like I don't sit and make myself angry. Anger is a response to my brain being stimulated in that type of way. That's causing anger. Jealousy is a form of covetousness. But these two things where I feel like I can be minding my own business and I can feel the jealousy. I can feel anger depending on what situation I'm in. And my thing is this. Over the past few weeks, I've been trying to deal with forgiveness. Understand what I'm saying? In my personal life, I've been dealing with forgiveness. I feel like I've been really hurt. You understand what I'm saying? And I want to understand what is my responsibility as someone who forgives. I'm forgiven, and God don't hold things over our head when he forgives us. But if I want to hash out my feelings, do I just have to eat that? You understand? If I'm thinking about what has happened to me, am I not allowed to get angry? And I'm just like, bro, it can't be, bro. Anger can't be a sin. And I'm not saying if it is or not, but I'm saying if I'm operating in fits of rage and in jealousy and stuff like that, I'm operating in the flesh and I have to accept that. This is not the spirit who I need to lead me and inspire me. So just to wrap it up, I was today years old when I realized the fruits of the spirit means the representation or the practice of the theory or the practical of the, not theory, the practicalness of, if that's a word, of the spirit. So if you operate in the spirit, these are the characteristics that you will have and you will see within yourself. That's a, that's
a great thought, bro. That's really a great thought. And it's a great reminder because especially the jealousy, like you said, the jealousy, the hatred. I mean, like some of them you read is like, okay, witchcraft, idolatry, sexual immorality. That's like, oh yeah, you're good. We know that's it. That's the end of Jesus. Like, of course.
Right. And you have to make a conscious choice to indulge in witchcraft and sexual immorality and stuff like that. Like these are actions. You know
like
what I
the
mean?
Jealousy, the envy, the drunkenness, fits of rage. Like those are the ones you really gotta control. Because jealousy and envy, sometimes you just feel yourself getting jealous for no reason. You're like, hold on, where that's coming from? Like why am I jealous of this person or envious of this person? And then you really have to like search deep and really like unlock some hidden feelings, but you just gotta like really like wrestle with your emotions, like figure out like where this is actually coming from, because sometimes it's trivial, but then you actually gotta like look within and figure out like what's going on.
And now based on from a biblical standpoint, you can put the two together to know that if I'm experiencing jealousy and envy, this is a fleshy desire of mine. This is something flesh and it's not of God. It's not of the spirit. Understand?
Man, I was reading a book this week, and this on the like I just talk about love, right? Like one of the fruits of the spirit is love, and we also know God is love. And this book I was reading was essentially talking about love in essentially the author was saying that a lot of humans, us human beings, have the concept of love warped. They're saying when you're hurt, that's really your ego and your pride that's hurt. And then you're saying like the love is gone, but they're essentially saying like the love comes from God and love is of God and love is eternal. Love is present with or without you acknowledging it. He said a lot of people, they turn off their acknowledgement of the love, even because they're hurt. And then they pretty much say no to love again in their life. They're saying if love is of God, you should always be accepting of love, but you still have to protect yourself. But you just can't just shut yourself off from love, because love is a characteristic of God and love is always present. We can't take away love or like deny someone a love essentially, but like love is there. We just accept it essentially. But it started to make me think. Like I did a horrible job just now, like reciting his thoughts. But it really makes you think like these are the characteristics of God in a sense too. Like these are some of his characteristics. And so like you say, if you're operating the spirit, if you abide by these things, or if you find these characteristics in yourself. So that's definitely important.
Yeah, bro, definitely. And that's something that we need every day to be operating under the Holy Spirit. You understand? He inspires us. He shows us the way to go. He spares us from harm and danger, helps us to walk in our blessings, to heal, and just to move like Christ. And when Christ left earth, he said he did not leave us as orphans. He gave us the Spirit of God. And so that's something that we should be working towards, inviting in us. And to do that, we need to make sure that we're not leaning towards our fleshy desires and fleshly characteristics.
Definitely. So this week, we are continuing Judges still. We're still in Judges. We're done with Samson. We're still in Judges. And now we're starting to go away from the point of Judges. Now we're really starting to hone in on the state of Israel as a whole, more so. So now we're seeing, like we already know from Samson, they were in bondage to the Philistines. We see how they weren't as repentive as we've seen them at the beginning of the book of Judges. There was no crying out, asking God for help. And as we went through Samson, we see the Israelites were more than okay with giving their judge to the Philistines to be killed. And, Samson did what he did with the donkey jawbone. Definitely check out, was that episode 64? With that story. It's a nice, fun episode. But again, so now we're really starting to see the state of how far Israel has fallen from God. This is definitely not the generation that came into the promised land. This is not the generation that was super tight with God. This is not the generation that promised Joshua, for me and for we will serve the Lord. We will serve the Lord. We will serve the Lord. This generation has fallen super far from that original conviction. And then part of it is because their ancestors, again, weren't as diligent in proclaiming the word of God and teaching the younger generation and telling them where they've come from. And to me, personally, I just think like they weren't good examples of it.
Yeah, that was something that we start. I don't know if you remember, bro, I think the first episode we did Judges, or maybe the second, it wouldn't be later in the second. These were points that we made even from then. From when Judges start, Joshua, we still talking about the people who Joshua was dealing with, Caleb, and you know what I'm saying, like the Judah clans, and they still trying to get settled. But it was evident by Judges chapter 2, that they had already turned far away from the teachings of Moses and the reminders of Joshua. From then, that's how we start off the book. However, throughout the book, you can see where we have judges that did what God wanted them to do. And Israel served God under their reign. That was more so towards the beginning of Judges. Toward the middle, or a little after the middle, we see a shift where they do what God said to do, but at a price. You understand what I said? They do God. It's like you get the good and the bad. They follow God, but then they follow their own selfish desires. We see that with Gideon. We see that with Jephthah. We see that with Samson. Samson, we don't even really see Samson following God for real. We see him consulting God to follow his own agenda, but God set it up so that Samson's agenda and God's agenda could align. But we don't know that Samson was doing this because of God. You understand what I'm saying? Excuse me. And what I realized, though, Samson may have been the last judge of Israel.
That's how it seems.
But my stance on Samson. I feel like Samson, in terms of judge, I'm not talking about the man's soul salvation. Samson as a judge was an overrated and underwhelming judge. He was underwhelming because I do not feel like Samson completed the mission. Most, if not all, the judges that we spoke about that actually waged war, they achieved what God set out for them to do.
They at least temporarily liberated Israel.
Right. Did Samson do that? I do not know. When Samson killed more Philistines in his death than in his life, we don't have no evidence to say, all right, now the Israelites was free from the hand of the Philistines after that. And while he was alive, we don't have no evidence of that. As a matter of fact, while he was very alive, the people of Judah was like, yo, we gotta hand you back over to these people because you doing too much craziness, bro. You putting extra pressure on us. Which means that the Philistines were still around and still had authority over the Israelites.
Mm-hmm. Somebody asked him, go for it.
No, you could go.
No, I was saying, because remember, they even asked him, like, don't you know, like, they're like our rulers? Like, why are you doing this? And then Samson was like, yeah, okay, just make sure y'all ain't gonna kill me. Before
Right, just
y'all
don't
hand
kill
me.
me.
Yeah. But
And my thing is, bro, Samson was a homemade. I don't know. I don't even know how to say this, bro. God make him a judge from birth. You were destined from the womb to be a judge. As a matter of fact, your mom had no kids. Your mom and dad probably had no kids before you. So they were not able to have kids until the Lord say, we're gonna make this judge from the womb.
Because she was barren. So
yes, she was barren. You understand what I'm saying? So you come around for such a time as that. You was destined to be a judge. And I'm sure you knew that your entire life. However, you wanted to chill and live a regular life. But you was called, you was set apart. You set apart. And we don't know Samson. We don't know that Samson was really caring about God or being a good leader.
We should do like a judges recap just to like talk about it in its entirety when we're done.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Like we didn't do a recap since Genesis, which is kind of ironic, but
yeah.
I think we should do a judges recap because like to me a lot happened in Judges. A lot happened in Judges, and it really like sets the tone for like how far Israel, like where they came and like where they're at in just a span. Well, this book covered like several centuries, but still like a lot has changed. Like this is a completely different nation. And we see even in this book how far they fell.
Bro, Judges is like a downward slope.
Why is it downward spiral, bro? What
I'm saying is
gradual.
They're trending down is the point I'm trying to make. They're trending. I don't know how fast or how slow they spiraling, but I know it going downward. Like it don't bounce back up, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like
no, it doesn't. No, and to me, this is like a theme. Like they about to go like a little roller coaster ride, just the entire the nation of Israel in its entirety. Because I'm thinking like even after the kings, like they start off good, then they start going back and forth, and then again, it's like you look at Kings and Chronicles and the rest of these books. It's almost like a microcosm of Judges, but they had a king now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
Let's go. So now we are in Judges 17, and we're focusing on a guy named Micah, who was pretty interesting. So 17 verse 1. Now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim. I like how a lot of this book was just talking about Ephraim.
Yeah.
Said to his mother, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have that silver with me. I took it. So interesting. We just came from Samson, and we just pick up with this guy named Micah. Don't know anything about him prior to this, but the chapter opens with him admitting to his mother that he stole her money.
Yep.
And 1,100 shekels, like just keep that number in mind, 1,100 shekels. And we like as we go and read on, we're actually gonna see how much money that really was. But just to me, 1,100 shekels right now, that's already a lot of money. That's already a lot of money.
I just don't get it, bro. Like
that's 28 pounds of, I would assume, silver. So that's 28 pounds of silver, 13 kilograms of silver.
I just don't get. I don't know, bro. Like the man steal the money and then give it back. I just don't get. I don't get what's the point, bro. Like what's the point of this?
Why steal from your mommy? Like,
no, that's a fact. And so, all right, so
he might have been feeling guilty. You see what you see what he said? I heard you curse. So, in context clues, he said this really disturbed her because she cursing, and I would assume his mother doesn't curse.
No, I took that as him saying that she put a curse on whoever steal the money, and he hear her like saying, curse be the, you know what I mean? And now he's guilty. You feel me? Now he's guilty. Like, I have that silver. I took it. But the reason why this confusing me is just like to see how the mother react to it and like just how the story progress. Because I'm just like, but this is just like it's just a weird relationship they have with each other. Or it's just weird how, their relationship to money. I don't know. But this is a lot of money, like you were saying, though.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
To put it in context, right? And we're going to put some more context later as the story progresses, but this 1,100 shekels of silver, but Joseph was sold for 20. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know if it's 20 shekels or 20 pieces. I don't know if that's the same thing. But anywho, Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. That was probably about 1,000 years prior. I don't know. There was a lot of years before, because that was before they was spent 400 years in Egypt or whatever. And thousands of years after this, Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver. You understand? But this 1,100.
Yes. 1,100 pieces of silver. Like, that's interesting.
Yes, this is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Like, even in today's account, that's still a lot of money.
Because my thing is, if you sell a whole human for 20 pieces of silver. You understand what I'm saying?
So right then and there, we do the math. That's like, how much Josephs was that? That's 55 Josephs.
Yeah.
That's 55 future viceroys of Egypt.
Yeah, so that's a lot of money. I can see why she wanted to put a curse on whoever steal our money, because that's a lot of money.
So after he admitted to taking the silver, his mother said, "The Lord bless you, my son," which is interesting.
That's what tripping me out. But anyway, go on.
So the Lord bless you, my son. So now, and to me, what I really want people to understand is it's not only how far they've come, but how they don't know the Lord. It's like they know of him, but they don't really know him. So now it's like they have bits and pieces of him interwoven with the Canaanite religions. So it's like a big mosh pit, for lack of a better word, a mixed structure, like
melting pot. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was looking for.
So, bro, all right. So we made mention to this when we was reading the Ten Commandments and maybe Deuteronomy, but I was reading Deuteronomy this week, and I will always make this parallel. Whenever they talk about the Ten Commandments, shortly thereafter, they can talk about loving the Lord with all your heart in Deuteronomy. So I think it's Deuteronomy, let's say it's Deuteronomy 5 when they have the Ten Commandments. The very next chapter, Deuteronomy 6, chapter 6, they would be talking about loving God. And then they make mention of the commandments, and then they say love the Lord with all your heart. So when Jesus mentioned those being the two commandments, he was quoting Deuteronomy. The point I'm making is this, bro. You have to know the Ten Commandments before you talk about you loving God. You have to know God before you love him. Because you're not going to love God in the way that because God is love at the end of the day, right? So you're not going to give God a God-like offering without knowing what God is like or what God likes. And I'm not trying to be fake deep. What I'm saying is we see Jephthah, he did not understand what God likes. He thought a fire sacrifice was fitting unto God. It's the same thing with Cain. Cain thought that a fruit offering or plants offering, like harvest or whatever, was fitting to God. You do not know what God likes. God likes for us to be obedient. He gives us, he gave us rules, regulations, commands, all of these things for us to be closer to him, for us not to defile ourselves, and for us to serve him. And if we just want to bypass that and give that to God and give whatever we want to God, that's not loving him. You know, if my wife don't like something, right? Why would I give her something she don't like? If I love her, you know what I mean? And I go with anyone I love. If I know you don't like something, like you seriously detest this thing, bro, why would I give that to you? You know, I have an auntie that's afraid of, let's say, I know somebody who's afraid of frogs, right? Why would I give him a frog? Like even a joke. Like I talking about this person is petrified of frogs. Why would I show him that? You understand what I'm saying? But I would have to know that. I would have to know that to not scare him with that frog. You know, that's a loose analogy right now. But the point I'm making is the people of Israel during this time, they don't even know God. They know all the other gods and assuming that these same rules apply for God.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you hit it on the head. It's just like related to just a human relationship. If you're in a relationship with anyone, friends, family, if you know the next person, You have to know, like, to love them, you have to know them, and you have to know everything about them. And so there's just like things you do, like you wouldn't do this if you know if you love someone, you know them, and you know how to act around them. You know what they like, you know what they want to eat, you know where they want to go, you know their favorite spots, you know their favorite shows, their favorite movies, their temperament. If I say they're probably going to react this way. And like God says, like if you love me, you want to get to know me. When you get to know me, read my word, keep my commandments.
Right. And bro, and that just hit me just now, bro, because I'm saying that God talks about, I think this in Exodus and Deuteronomy. He gave us the 10 commandments. And then shortly after, I'm talking the next point he's making is about love, right? And then Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Bro, the two are directly related. You understand what I'm saying? And it's just a concept that is very easy to digest. Imagine you meet a young lady, or someone meets a young lady. You speak to her for 2 days. And then you tell her, I love you. And you seriously mean that. It is very reasonable for her to respond, you don't even know me. How could you love me? You do not even know me. Bro, this is an easy concept to digest. How could you love someone or something that you don't know? You don't even have the ability to love them because you don't know who they are. You don't know what all they come with. You don't know what all they stand for, X, Y, Z. You might develop a relationship with God and realize, bro, you know, some people detest good. You understand what I'm saying? Like let's say people who are evil, sometimes when they see goodness, they don't like it. You understand? It make them mad. You might claim you love God, but when you realize how good God is, you might realize you don't even really love God for real. You understand? But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like that's the Israelites. They didn't take the time to know God good enough, you know, but they still taking liberties among themselves to offer sacrifices and do things in honor of God.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So in verse 3, chapter 17, when he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, I will solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord for my son to make an image overlaid with silver. I will give it back to you.
Still very confusing to me. Ron steal from you, right? You put a curse on it. When he give it to you, reverse the curse, you say, bless him. And now this money that was just missing to you, you dedicate it to a idol for him.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
She blessed him for returning the money, even though he took it originally. And now she is going to make an image overlaid with silver that she is consecrating to the Lord for her son. So after he returned the silver to his mother, she took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith, who used it to make the idol and put it in Micah's house. Now this man, Micah, had a shrine, and he made an ephod. This sounds like Gideon again. And some household gods, and installed one of his sons as his priest. In those days, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. As a young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who had been living within the clan of Judah, left that town in search of some other place to stay, on his way he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. Micah asked him, where are you from? I'm a Levite from Bethlehem, he said. A Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. He said, I'm looking for a place to stay. Then Micah said to him, live with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year, your clothes and your food. So the Levite agreed to live with him, and the young man became like one of his sons. Then Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in his house. And Micah said, now I know that the Lord will be good to me, since the Levite has become my priest. And so this is the end of verse 17. But I just want to finish this before we discuss it some more. So, yeah, chapter 17. So I don't even know where to start. There's so much things wrong with this, but this is really showing you how bad things are in Israel at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I could just start off with like the most non-important point, but we see here Micah was going to pay this priest 10 shekels of silver a year.
Mm-hmm.
So now we see how much money the 1,100 100 shekels really is in comparison. Depending on your math, that's 111 years, 110 years worth of wages.
Yeah. That's 2 lifetimes.
Especially in this day and age, the life expectancy wasn't too long, buddy. Because you could die in war real quick. So your life expectancy might some people still live long, but still, you young man, you're going to be dying in war probably. All these little skirmishes they having.
Yeah, and they was definitely under bondage, and they was doing things to make sure they remain under bondage from the other nation. So I feel you on that.
Okay, so go for it.
No, I just wanted to know.
I'm gonna let you kick it off.
No. All right. So verse 5, right? He make the ephod and whatever, and install one of his sons as his priest. So he installed one of his sons as his priest, and then he hired a young Levite from Bethlehem to also be his priest. So my thing is, the man is a very religious man, and I ain't even trying to be funny. So your mother was so happy for this silver, she dedicated to God, right? Ain't nothing wrong with dedicating stuff to God. God talk about tithes and offering and stuff like that, right? But you ain't dedicated to give it to the Levites, because Levites didn't have an inheritance, so they were supposed to receive offering and stuff like that, but you didn't dedicate it in that way. Your mother decided to turn it into an idol, which you put in your house along with your collection of idols. So you had household gods, you had your ephod, and you had this big, flamboyant idol as well. And
go for it. Keep on going.
Top, right. So on top of that, now you have priests in your household as well. And one of the priests that you had, who was a Levite, that validated how you felt spiritually, because this person chose to accept your proposal he chose to accept your job offer. That showed you that, I am validated and the Lord is with me now because this Levite accepted.
Okay. So you're right. But now, to me, so now I'm going to try to just paint everything that's still wrong with everything that's happening. So we go back to Deuteronomy and Leviticus and even parts of Joshua. For Levites, we know Levites had appointed cities where they were to minister and they had appointed duties. Mm-hmm. So out the gate, this Levite, a man who's supposed to be representing God and, caring for the temple and the tabernacle and all that kind of stuff, he essentially is a priest for hire now, which is not something that's ordained by God. He's a priest for hire. So a man of God is doing what is right in his own eyes in the age where the Israel has no king. Mm-hmm. So that in itself, this priest ain't supposed to be wondering. He ain't supposed to be looking for extra money because God already said the other tribes will take care of you when you are in your city. Because remember, we was even laughing at this. Well, not laughing, but we made a little light of it. But saying how the Bible really emphasized, you will own no land, you will not make money, but you will be living off of the temple sacrifices and that kind of stuff. This is what y'all supposed to be doing. The Levites, you know what I'm saying? You ain't supposed to be out here trying to look for no extra money, being no one's personal priest for hire. Because God ain't this guy's a personal trainer for spirituality right now. Yeah. You essentially almost becoming like a warlock.
But my thing is, you ain't saying nothing but these idols.
Exactly.
It's the Levite. Yeah.
Exactly. So now again, we see Micah, to your point, he was a religious man, but now it's you being religious is you kind of know what you should be doing, but you're going about it the wrong way. It's a priest? That would be good. I need a priest. I need some more spiritual guidance. And to me, it really shows when, as humans, we know we lack in something and we're still trying to find it, but he ain't turning to God himself. You have all these idols and stuff, but the actual, who set up this whole social structure already? The Levites and stuff like that, that come from God himself. So it's you halfway there, you're trying to halfway do it. But again, everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Because Israel, even though they had no king, they were supposed to be looking at God as their king. And right now, God was supposed to be the leader, but they already turned their backs from God. And essentially, I'd say God almost withdrew his presence from them because like y'all doing so much wickedness and so much evilness. Y'all ain't really trying to serve me right now. And everyone is doing what is right in their own eyes. And to me, this really exemplifies that because we see even the priests, the Levites are doing what is right in their own eyes. Because to me, and this me like probably reading too deep, I would assume more Levites was doing the same thing too. And to me, how dangerous is this now? This is supposed to be a quote unquote man of God. Like we see almost like with Balaam, this is supposed to be a man of God. But now but money compromises your message.
Yep.
Because like and going back to your point, you see all these idols. And as a Levite, I would feel y'all have access to more of these like, God and scriptures and whatever scriptures was written at that point, but y'all have more access to these scrolls and stuff. And y'all really supposed to be Israel's spiritual guide. What?
A whole clan dedicated to being the spiritual guide.
Exactly.
That's your job. It's like there's no excuse for you not to know what does say the Lord.
Mm-hmm. But here you are in this man's household, accepting money from him and not calling out the wickedness that you see in his own house. Because we see he had ephods, he had other gods, he had this new one that's coming in there like, just like this man wants to know God, but he doesn't know which God he's trying to know.
And it's so dangerous because you the Levite, you agreeing to do this, you gave him validation. His exact words, verse 13. Now I know that the Lord will be good to me since this Levite has become my priest. So to him, if you had said, no, you need to get rid of all them idols, he would understand, this is what God, this is how God feels. Like God doesn't want me to have, like he look at you as the representation of God. So because you agree, he know God is with him because this Levite is with me,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's why as Christians, as followers of Christ, people who believe in Christ, we have such a big standard or what's such big responsibility. We are not to take the name of the Lord in vain. So some people who are weak in the faith, they look at us as Christians and they see the things we doing. If it coincides with what they're doing, they can feel justified. Or the Christian out here doing XYZ wilding out just like me. So that means like good. That's how some people really think. Or that's the thought process a lot of people could go through. If this person doing it, I trust his faith. Kazi knows so much about the Bible. Kazi out just smoking with me, so smoking must be good. That's how some people think. This is a hypothetical situation, by the way. But yeah. But yeah, so we see the Levite Rachel was just used, to affirm Micah in his wrongdoing. Just his presence, just him accepting the job offer did that.
Oh, yeah, it's just really interesting because how often are we like in this circumstance? And I'm not saying like us personally, but like just it's like Micah right now is empowered to be doing wrong because he has no one who is even remotely accountable to tell him that he's on the wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the dangerous part about it because like, to your point, he thinks he's justified, but he's so wrong because he doesn't have the authority to consecrate any priest. And even though he might have been sincere, your sincerity doesn't make it any less wrong or any more right. You know what I'm saying? Like I could sincerely think I could cross the Pacific, like swim across the Pacific Ocean. But guess what?
Sincerely die.
I will sincerely probably drown.
Yeah. See, my thing is this, bro. Like, and that's where people have to stop this God know my heart situation. Boy, we'll vilify Cain as if Cain wasn't being sincere in his offering. Cain was upset when God didn't take his offering. You know why? Because he worked hard. I work hard on these plants, bro. I try to give God my best. But you know what? God say, I am not taking that because I did not ask for that. I did not tell you to do that. Your sincerity does not matter. People say this is not directly in the Bible, but it is a phrase that says, the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mercy.
I would even say it's paved with sincere, good intentions. You understand what I'm saying? But obedience is better than sacrifice. We ain't make it to Samuel yet, the book of Samuel, but obedience is better than sacrifice. That dragged me when I read that. I was like, oh my.
Samuel 1 and 2 is the next book. That is be like Judges for me. Like I feel David should be his own book in of himself. But I can mention that when we get back to Samuel. Yeah, but man, like go for it.
That's what we have with Micah. He's not being obedient. You understand what I'm saying? So he giving his other sacrifices. He's sacrificing his 200 shekels, his household gods, all of these things. But it is worthless. It's like it has no bound, bro. Like it is meaningless because God does not want that.
It's like I agree with you, and to me, it's just interesting because we know we ain't being obedient, but the sad part is, and again, it's just showing how far Israel has fallen. He don't even know he ain't like obedient, right. And ain't no one else around him even there to like show him what obedience is. And to me, like that's the real tragedy in this story. Because usually we at least have someone else who doing good. But the mere fact that this is the story that the Bible is really like trying to point out and show is really trying to show that there's no more judges. Everyone is really doing what they want in their own eyes. And we're seeing it on both sides. We're seeing the spiritual leaders who are doing what they want to do. We're seeing the townsfolk who probably want to sincerely follow God, but they don't even know which God to follow because they don't even know God. Like we're really seeing how, as a society, this whole nation is just crumbling at the seams. It's at the foundation, but you get what I'm trying to say.
No, I get you, bro. But one thing we have to consider as Christians, bro, God does wink in ignorance, right? But at the same time, everything you ain't considered ignorance. Because you don't know something, that ain't the same as you willfully not doing your due diligence.
You understand? That's the part.
So watch this. Eve was very much punished for believing a lie. You understand? Eve, in her mind, she wasn't firm enough to say, this is right or this is wrong. The devil come and give us a piece of information, but how they're thinking, she was not specific. She was not like, yeah, that's wrong. And I being disobedient. She was ignorant to what the truth really was, although God gave her the truth. She believed a lie. But her true downfall was her lack of effort to find out what the truth is. That's not what I'm saying. So Micah right now, he can look at other people worshiping idols, and the idol's supposed to represent God in the same way as the golden calf did, which was their intention. But we know how that was. We know God didn't want that. You could sincerely believe that, bro. You can sincerely believe that someone could feed that to you, and you could feel like that's the truth. You understand what I'm saying? But did you take the necessary steps to fact check? Did you go through this for yourself? That's my thing. Sometimes people are blameless for not knowing when they sincerely didn't have an option to know or not. You understand? But sometimes you could still hold the blame just based on choosing to be ignorant. That's what I'm really trying to say. Choosing to be ignorant. We don't know what Micah's case was here. You understand what I'm saying? The Levite could have been lying. The Levite could have told him the truth. They might not have had no information or whatever. But at the end of the day, God said these are written down, and it was written down for a reason, so that you could be able to cross-reference and to fact-check and to know better. But here it is. Micah didn't know better. Samson probably didn't know better. Jephthah didn't know better. That's just how far Israel had came to the point where it was no rules. There was no king. There was no leadership. There was no regard for the true, pure worship of God.
Yep. Man. So now let's fast forward to chapter 18. Again, chapter 18 starts off with the phrase, in those days, Israel had no king. And in those days, the tribe of Danites, was seeking a place of their own where they might settle because they had not yet come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel, which is very, very interesting. But I think that was one of the tribes who was in one of the tribes.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to go and conquer their own land. I think it was in Judah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, y'all gonna wait this long?
Y'all had so much time, bro.
And again, is y'all ancestors that faulty up?
Yeah, but I think Samson was from the Danites. Y'all had the guy. You understand? Y'all could have found something, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Like I feel like Samson really dropped the ball, man. But anyway.
So the Danites sent 5 of their leading men from Zorah and Eshtaol to spy out the land and explore it. These men represented all the Danites. They told them, go explore the land. So they entered the hill country of Ephraim. This hill country of Ephraim is just like the scene for most of the judges, I feel like. And came to the house of Micah, where they spent the night. When they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked him, who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here? He told them what Micah had done for him and said, he has hired me and I am his priest. Then they said to him, please inquire of God to learn whether our journey will be successful. The priest answered them, go in peace. Your journey has the Lord's approval. And when I read that, I was like, did you really ask God at all?
Like, where you get that from, right?
Yeah, it's so quick. Like one verse later, your journey has the Lord's approval. So the 5 men left and came to Laish. I forgot how to pronounce that. Pardon my pronunciations. Where they saw the people were living in safety, like the Sidonians, at peace and secure. And since their land lacked nothing, they were prosperous. Also, they lived a long way from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone else. When they returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their fellow Danites asked them, how did you find things? They answered, come on, let's attack them. We have seen the land and it's very good. Aren't you going to do something? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unexpected people and a spacious land that God has put into your hands and lacks nothing whatsoever. It's just so interesting, right? Because usually we know for a fact the leader would have been in connection with God, a Joshua. And we know for a fact God would have been, on their side conquering. I just don't have that same feeling when I was reading this part of the year.
Yeah.
Y'all have the okay of a priest who just felt like he just pulled it out of thin air.
See, bro, but you'll know, but you could tell if it's God by how it go down, bro. You understand what I'm saying? Like the output. You don't have to question if it's God or not. You understand what I said? And then most of the time, man, God give people over. It is be something supernatural where you know it's God who do it. Like when Gideon and them had the torches and you know what I mean? There's just 300 of them and every 100,000 men was scared.
Miraculous.
You understand what I said? Right. The walls of Jericho, the hornets coming. And it's just so much miraculous stuff. So you know it's God for sure. Not saying that that's every specific instance, but a lot of the times you can see where God specifically had his hand in it, where you can't deny it. This one, not quite getting that impression.
Exactly. Because all of God's victories, we know it was God's doing that defeated their enemies and not them. And that was, especially if you look at the story of Gideon, for example, Gideon, Jericho, we have multiple examples, but it's really God just saying, guess what? Y'all ain't doing this on your own. It's me going through and I'm getting the victory for y'all. So y'all can never brag and boast and say y'all did this off your own accord. No, it was me. I mean, but it's so funny because we have a sinful Levite who just okayed sinful Danites to go on their sinful mission while assuming that they have the blessing of a righteous God. And it's just so funny, man, because they're just like, yeah, okay, yeah, y'all could go.
Yeah, y'all good.
Yeah, y'all good. Don't worry about it. So now we see the 600, I'm on verse 11, right? The 600 men of the Danites armed for battle set out to Zorah from Eshtaol. On their way, they set up camp in Kiriath Jearim in Judah. This is why the place west of Kiriath Jearim is called Manahedan to this day. Okay. For they went onto the hill country of Ephraim and came to Micah's house. Then the 5 men who spy on the land of Laish said to their fellow Danites, do you know that one of those houses has an ephod, some household gods, and an image overlaid with silver? Now you know what to do. So they turned in there.
What is going on, bro? What is going on, bro?
So they turned in there and went to the house of the young Levite at Micah's place and greeted him. The 600 Danites armed for battle stood at the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had spied out the land went inside and took the idol, the ephod, and the household gods, while the priests and the 600 armed men stood at the entrance of the gate. Go for it. I'm just gonna say something.
All right. So the Levite told the Danites that the land was good for them to conquer, right? But the Levite just didn't seem to mention that the land you conquering was Israelites that you conquering, which is like has never happened. You know what I'm saying? Like it was always Canaanites. Because bro, if you read the first 5 books of the Bible, it is painfully obvious that God was going to rid the Canaanite land of the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Ammonites. He said that every time. He could have literally just said Canaanites moving forward. But every time he called them the Hittites, the Amorites, the da-da-da-da-da, he keeps saying that you're going to rid the Canaanite land of these people. Not once he mentioned that you're gonna rid the land of the Israelites in any facet, you know? And so now the Levite is telling them that this land lacks nothing and God has given you this land. But it just so happens that this land where your brothers and sisters reside. And so when you all plunder the land, as people usually do, they take whatever, you know, that first set of plunder, you know, they give it to God. But when they plunder the land, everything is up for grabs unless God say destroy everything. And that's why they telling each other, y'all know what to do. Because everything for grabs in this land. And I wonder what type of man Micah is, if he's go around bragging about his idols or what. Because it is common knowledge that this man's house is decked out with all type of idols for the taking.
I mean, they went in his house, so
yeah, they went in his house.
Yeah, I mean, because remember they did talk to the Levite. I wish the Levite had a name, but they remember they did talk to him in the house. Remember they asked him like, "Why are you here? Like, why are you here? How you get here? What you doing here?" And so so they might have gone in and was like, "Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a nice.
This place is
that's a nice idol.
Yeah,
it'd be a shame if something was to happen to it."
Oh my. So yeah, so now again, we're seeing like Micah, his idols, they came back and they took them. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, let's just finish. Let's just finish. Where was I?
I think he was going to 18. Yeah.
When the 5 men went into Micah's house and they took the idol and the ephod and the household gods, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They answered, "Be quiet. Don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and our priest. Isn't it better that you serve a tribe and clan in Israel as a priest rather than just one man's household?" Again, to show that this priest was not really of the Lord, the priest was very pleased. He took the ephod and the household gods and the idol and went with the people, putting their little children, their livestock, and their possessions in front of them. They turned away and left. When they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together and overtook the Danites. As they shouted after them, the Danites turned and said to Micah, "What's the matter with you that you called out your man to fight?" He replied, You took the gods I made and my priests and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask what's the matter with you?" The Danites said, "Don't argue with us."
But that's funny to me though. Because see, like, bro, what you mean what's the matter with me, bro? You just robbed me. What you mean? Like,
oh man, I said, "Hey, what you talking too much, man."
Yeah, no, he's talking too much with you.
He said, "Don't argue with us, or some of our men will get angry and attack you and your family, and you will lose your lives." So the Danites went their way, and Micah, seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went back home. I guess imagine that you bring out your whole army ready for the smoke, all that smoke. You just just starting to reason with them. You're like, they're saying,
no,
I just gotta charge this one to the game and move on.
Real talk.
So let's just finish before we wrap it up. Then they took them. Then they took what Micah had made and his priests and went on to Laish again against a people at peace and secure. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone else. The city there was called Beth Roab. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it Dan after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel. Though the city used to be called Laish, again, pardon my pronunciation, there the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of captivity of the land. They continued to use the idol Micah had made all the time the house of God was in Shiloh.
Wow. I could just imagine during that time that idol must have been pretty like famous. You know, that might have been their most prized idol for that time.
You pay 200 pieces of silver. That's like what, 20 years worth of work. I mean, that was some good idol right there. It's a lot of silver. But again, to me, it was just so much unpacked there. But overall, we could really see just how far Israel has fallen. Just going back to your point, they're ready to essentially wage war against themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we haven't seen this before, because we kind of did see this when, with
the Ephraimites with Jephthah.
When Jephthah did snap and just was like, I'm just killing y'all. Say shibboleth.
I think that Ephraimites was pretty biggity though. Like they was provocative in my opinion, because they just was angry and jealous every time it was some action, and you don't involve them. You know, these Danites was just like, bro, we looking for a place to stay, bro. Sorry.
Man. And so now we see it's just a lot. Just really a lot. And to me, it's just really sad to see this downward spiral, to see how they're just on a trajectory downward and there's no one really coming there to help them. Like, and even though Micah was doing wrong, his idols got snatched and his priests got snatched. And again, to me, something should click. Like, if I was really serving God, would this happen? But yet that didn't click because they were the morality was just gone. The morality was gone in Israel. And that's what we're really like starting to see. What happens when your whole nation isn't following God? What happens when you aren't relaying to your children the good works of God? What happens when society just stops talking about God in general? This happens. Everyone does what is right in their own eyes. And again, going back to how we started the podcast, talking about the fruits of the Spirit. What is the fruits of the flesh? It's crazy to just tie them, but what are the fruits of the flesh? Nothing good. What was it? Jealousy, envy, witchcraft, drunkenness, self-ambitions, orgies,
fits of wrath.
Exactly. And that's what Israel is going through. Everyone is doing what is right in their own eyes. And what is right in your own eyes is automatically saying selfish ambitions. What's right in your own eyes? Like, again, what we see right now with Dan. It ain't mine. I want it. I taking it.
Mm-hmm.
What's right in your own eyes could be jealous. Oh, they have what I want. I jealous. Oh, I gonna take it. I could be envious, killing, destroying, doing whatever I got to do to obtain what is right in my own eyes. And this is the whole nation. Yeah. I don't know. You got anything else to add to that? I felt like I was ending. I was like, I'm not really ending.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's Proverbs 29, where there is no vision, the people will perish. So this is the beginning of a trend of, where we see the Israelites have no leadership. And we can take that literally or figuratively, because the people just on a downward spiral, and right now they the lowest of the lowest. And as we close on the book of Judges, we'll see even lower low just when you thought it could get no lower. And that's because there is no vision, because they have no leadership. They have a big, great God that is the God of the universe, that is the God who has saved them countless amount of times, but they've allowed themselves to be defiled and to conform to the ways of the world, to the point where they want to worship God in a worldly way. And overall, that turned into them turning towards each other, fighting each other. And their soul, not only does their soul perish, but physically they're killing each other. And so their body is perishing, as well as their soul, and their salvation is perishing because of a lack of vision.
Man, I know you probably tried to end it right now, right? But I
Yeah,
got one more thing to say, right?
Go ahead.
Again, they're gonna laugh at us. These two guys just trying to end it and nothing happened, right? But to me, this really also exemplifies how you don't know how your small sin compounded over time was going to be the end result of it. Because think about how this all started in Judges 17. Micah stole the 1,100 shekels from his mom. The very idol that was created out of those shekels ended up leading a whole tribe into idolatry. Not to saying that they may have not been doing it before, because we kind of established how the whole nation was turned away from God to a sense, but we know for a fact that same idol, as a city was an Israelite city was built around this idol. You know, Micah didn't really envision that. Like, he just thought it was going to set up for him, but you don't, like, that evil act, while it might have been selfish, you see what the net result was of that. Like, to me, that's just powerful. Like, we don't know what are sins, the effect of those in the long run. Because Micah he didn't care about the tribe of Dan. Let's just be honest. He didn't care. He was sulking that his idols got stolen.
Yep.
Granted, you know, they probably cost him some money, but they got stolen. Now, he might feel like, oh, I'm not connected with God, not knowing that you never had the true connection with the one true God. You had connection with these false gods who wasn't doing anything for you. But now look where it ended up.
And true, it reminded me of Balaam in another way too, because Balaam wasn't supposed to be. The path Balaam was on was a reckless one. That's what the angel of God, by the way, I didn't even realize that it was the angel of the Lord who was talking to Balaam and his donkey at that time. But angel of the Lord tell him the path he's on is a reckless one. And that's because he was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. But he ready to fight the donkey over something he ain't supposed to be doing. And that's the same thing with Micah. Micah ain't supposed to have these idols. Now, we can't prove that he know better, but I can say he know better because, bro, it's clear how God feels about idols, you know? Now, it can be similar to the Sabbath. Bro, the Bible, it's in writing what day of the week the Sabbath is. But everybody is worship on Sunday, and some people sincerely believe that Sunday is God's holy Sabbath. You understand? But it's literally in writing. And so, like, we could sit there and be like, bro, how they didn't know about worshiping idols, bro? Like, why? But we see the same, we see a similar thing that's happening in today's day and age. There's plenty things that are wrong to do based on the Bible standpoint, but it is so normalized to the point where everybody feel like it's right, to the point where we start to say, no, God don't matter. People have told me it don't matter what day you worship on, as long as you keep a day holy. That is literally not in the Bible. We just was talking about how obedience is better than sacrifice. Some people might have been arguing it don't matter what you worship. You can worship an idol or whatever. Once you call that the Most High God, that's the Most High God. To me, that's the same concept. Basically, it don't matter what. Once you X, Y, Z, and to me, that is equivalent to doing what is right in your own eyes. In my own eyes, I can keep whatever day. But that makes sense, bro. That, like, to the human standpoint, that literally makes sense to me. If someone say, bro, you can keep whatever day, bro, I telling you, that makes sense. The only problem is that ain't what God say. You understand what I'm saying? And so to wrap it back all around, back to Micah and back to everybody, back to Judges, obedience is better than sacrifice. So we see the judges who were obedient, and we see where the Bible says Israel, they serve Israel for so many years and they follow God. That's not going to happen through disobedience. But we see the judges where they don't even mention that. Obedience is better than sacrifice. God called you to be obedient and not to be wise in our own eyes. The Israelites had no king, and they all did as they saw fit. This was the case for Micah, the Danites, and the young Levite. With no judge in sight, the people of Israel have strayed further and further from God. But instead of turning to Him, they're now turning on each other. And this was the case for a Levite and his concubine. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by Ayana Albertson Gay, as well as your host, Nakhaz Gay. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.